I want you guys to just close your eyes and just listen to this. So, you're at school, and it's a rough day, like every day. But you manage to pull yourself through it, and that's really the biggest thing. And you're just having issues, like you do almost every day, and you come home, and you sit at your desk, and you sit there, and you think, and you think, and you know that it's gonna happen this time, and that it's not just something that you're gonna think about, but you have to do it fast, because your mom's gonna be home soon. So you sit there, and you sit there with the knife, or the razor, the lighter, or whatever else you have, and you're thinking, and you get out the rope, and you tie it to your ceiling fan, and you have a chair. You turn on your video camera, and you stare at the blinking light, and you tell your parents that it's not their fault, and you love them, and you'll always love them, and that they did their best, even though they didn't know what was going on. And you tell your little brother that you love him, and that he should be good for mommy and daddy. And you tell your sister, don't let people boss you around when you're older. Don't let them hurt you. Be your own person. And you tell your best friend Bree that you're so sorry, and that you're gonna miss her, and that you love her, and that it's not her fault either. And then you watch, and you just stare into the camera, and you start to sob, and you finally decide that you have to shut off the camera if you're going to do this. And it's now or never. And as you shut off that camera, the light goes off. You turn on your radio, and you just stand there on the chair. You stand there until your legs are trembling. You take the rope, you put it around your neck, and while the music's playing, you take one step off. You stand there, knowing as soon as you take that next leg off, you can't go back. There is no going back. But you step off, and the chair's fallen, and you're gone, and you can't return. You can't even think about it. 30 minutes pass, and your mom comes home, and she's loving, and she calls up the stairs to make sure that you're okay, and she's like, I'm home, and she has to say it 3 more times, because she kind of figures, oh, well, maybe you're asleep, and maybe you're listening to music. So she leaves it be, and she goes and she fixes dinner. And your dad comes home, and every day he walks into your room after work and comes and gives you a hug and says, how was school? And I love you, and I hope you had a good day. And he comes upstairs and he opens your door, and he's shocked. He can't even get your mother. He stands there, and he goes and sits on your bed, and he cries, and he can't even go and get anybody. He tries to pick up his phone and call the ambulance, but he knows that you're gone. He sits there and he doesn't understand what was wrong. Finally, your mom comes upstairs. She comes to check on your dad, and your dad's still sitting there, crying, and he doesn't understand. Your mom doesn't understand either. She screams at the top of her lungs. She can't wrap her mind around this. She goes and she hugs your limp body, and she can't even begin to process what is happening. And your little sister and your little brother get off the bus and they come home from school, and they go upstairs to go and see you, and they go upstairs just to say hello like they do every afternoon, and you always yell at them to get out, but they do it anyway because they love you. When they walk in your room, they see that there's EMTs, there are police officers, and they've moved your body. You're no longer in that room. They've moved the rope. They've moved everything. Your family moves out of your room, and they go downstairs, and they have to call the family and start arranging a funeral. The next morning when you're at school, or when you should be at school, they held a moment of silence for you. Your teachers, they thought that they were all too hard on you. One of them even quit their job because they felt that they weren't fit. That boy that you always liked, but he never knew, and he always teased you, he thought that maybe the only thing you needed was a smile, but he didn't give you that. He is now a self-harmer, and your best friend, she thinks it's all her fault. She thinks that she wasn't there for you enough. She now has an eating disorder. Your funeral comes. The entire town shows up. The entire town cries. You would have never expected this. You thought nobody cared about you. When it was time for your burial, again, the entire town showed up. They canceled school just so that they could all have a memory of you, because everybody in that town cared about you so much. Your parents couldn't even watch you putting in your ground, and they just turned around and they cried. And your little brother and your little sister, they were too young to understand it, but they knew that you were gone, and they looked up to you for everything. Three weeks have passed. Your dad finally has to go back to work to pay for your funeral costs. Your mom hasn't left the couch. She lays on the couch all day. Sometimes she'll stare out the window. But no one is taking care of the house anymore. Your little brother, he can't even grasp the concept yet, but he still cries himself to sleep every night. And your sister gets yelled at every day because she goes and she sits in your room and she just cries on your bed. She lays there and she can't understand it, but she knows that you're gone and that you're not coming back. Three years have passed. You would have been 18 today. Don't you know your family still holds you an 18th birthday party? Because they still weren't over the fact that you felt the need to take your own life. And everyone in the town came to that. Your baby sister's 14 now, and she understands everything. She's so confused. She doesn't talk to anyone anymore. And your brother, he tries his hardest just to get your mom to work, function, completely normal. All those people that you thought didn't care, didn't have a care in the world, you were wrong. They all loved you, and they all cared about you. The last thing that they wanted to see was you dead. So just think about that next time you think about taking your own life. Because so many more people need you than you'll ever understand.